Today I'm going to talk to you about cisterns. So a cistern is basically a big thing they built to hold water. It could fill with groundwater, it could fill with water from your gutters. There's a lot of different ways to fill these things, but it was a water source back in the day. So if you have an old house, a Victorian, older, maybe even a little bit newer, you may have a cistern built into it. Mine, there's a huge cistern outside. I don't know the capacity, but it's big. On the other side of the wall here in my cellar is the only access to it. Now, I will show you later how I can get into there from the outside, but from inside, this is it. You may notice that there is a huge concrete cube right here. All right? If you have a huge mystery cube in your basement, it could be a foundation stone, but more than likely, this is where they've capped off a cistern at some point in time. Who knows why or who did it, but it's capped off now. So all I have now is a mystery hole in the wall where a hose and an electrical cord comes out. Now I can take this cord and I can plug it in right here, and when I do, water will spew out of this hose. And how much water comes out of it is unknown to me, because that cistern could be full. I mean, it could be 100 gallons, 500 gallons, 1,000 gallons, 10,000 gallons. I don't know how much that holds. But needless to say, it'd be enough to flood my basement here. There is a drain in here, but it's not very good. So I'm not going to play that game. Luckily, the people who installed this saw fit to leave me about 8 feet of hose, and hose with no end on it. So this is what I want to talk about today, is this no end on this hose and how we're going to fix that. All right, so first off, I'll clean this thing off a little bit. So this is not like a regular garden hose. This is some sort of heavy duty hose. And it runs out into my cistern. Now in there is going to be a pump connected to this electrical cord. And I don't really know anything about what that looks like inside. I'm just going to hope that this pump doesn't get replaced in my lifetime, and whoever comes next can deal with it. But for now, it is what it is. Now this hose, you can see there's a little bit of a chunk out of it, so I'm going to actually replace the hose from here back. The rest of the hose looks to be in good shape. What we need to do is get a fitting on the end of this. So you want to have a nice clean cut on the end. If you don't have a pair of pipe cutters like this, you could use just a cutting blade or something like that to make this happen. But if you happen to have a pair of these, that's going to be the better way to go. All right, now if you don't know how these work, what you're going to do is get them open wide enough that they'll fit on the pipe or the hose you're cutting. Make sure you get it lined up nice and on a 90 degree. And then you're just going to start squeezing it. You'll hear it clicking. And what that's doing is tightening it down. And as it's tightening down, it's cutting. You just do that till it goes all the way through. And you can see that we got a nice even cut on there. So now we have a nice even cut behind where that funky part was. Now we can see about adding the end on here, which is something I will show you here in just a minute. If you don't know what size end you need, you can take this piece you just cut off to a store and you can make sure you get the right one, whether it's 5/8 or 3/4 of an inch, and make sure that you get the right size. A lot of the end caps you can put on these say they're universal, but I would say that that's probably not a good way to look at things. Find one that is specifically fit for your outer diameter of your hose, if it's one that goes on the outside, or inner diameter if you're going to get the type that goes on the inside. I will show you the one that I'm buying here in just a moment, and we'll see about adding it on the end of this so I can drain this cistern out for the first time. And in case I didn't mention it, the reason I'm doing this is because I only have 8 feet of hose. I want to be able to run this outside and drain this out into my yard instead of having to put it down my drain into my septic system and possibly causing issues. Because if that's, a couple hundred gallons or 1,000 gallons of water, I don't want to overtax my septic, and I certainly don't want anything to back up or overflow or flood my basement or anything crazy like that either. So let's take this to the hardware store, get ourselves a replacement end cap for this. So this is our cistern. Now, the people we bought it off of turned it into basically a porch. They put some stairs on it and you walk across it. This block right in the middle here, there should be a metal ring on it, but I think ours has worn away, and you can lift that out. Now in there is going to be a pump and a hose and stuff that you can get water out of the cistern. So if your cistern still works and you have one like this, remember this block, that's how you would get into it if you don't see any other ways into it. So for mine, there's no other way into it other than that right there. So if I ever need to access my pump that's in there or anything, I got to go through there, and I'm going to have to figure out how to get that up. For right now though, everything is working. So I'm going to take you down to my basement and we're going to see how this all works. So if you've bought a Victorian home or an older home, you probably have a cistern attached to it, more than likely. And if you do, I mean, this looks like a deck, but it's not a deck. This is actually a cistern, and it's a pretty big one. So we're going to go downstairs and have a look here at this hose. So it's been a few days. I had to go find the part I needed. I thought I had it, but I lost it, so I had to buy another one. Don't mind the noise in the background, it's just my dehumidifier. I always like to keep a dehumidifier running in the basement, especially an old house, keep things dry. So this is what I ended up buying here. And this is a product I bought at Rural King. This is made by a company called Gilmore. And basically, there's no tools required, there's nothing complex involved. You just slide your hose in. This is the piece of hose I cut off and took to the store with me to make sure I got the right thing. And then this is the actual item here. So the hose just slides in here, and you just screw this on, and that'll give you an end for your hose. This happens to be a male end, they call it. And then that way you can just attach another hose to it. So my super short hose I have here, I'll be able to add a hose to it, since they were kind enough to leave me a hose with no end. So see what I'm doing here? Now this, go ahead and clean off a little bit here on the end. You can heat these up, leave them lay out in the sun if you're able. You can hit it with a hair dryer or a heat gun briefly to soften it if you're having trouble getting it on here. I'm just going to push this on. And there you go, it just goes on like that. Now if you want to take it back off, you can just take that back off. So you can always remove these as well if something goes wrong with them, or you want to replace them, or you're trying to do something else here. So now we're going to put it on for real. Put this on first. Go ahead and take this, make sure the plastic part's lined up, and just stick it right on in, just like that. Slide this collar up and just tighten it down by hand. If you wanted to, you could use channel locks. I would be careful on this because this stuff looks like it's plastic, maybe aluminum. It doesn't look like it's really all that substantial. And just torque it on down. So, in my opinion, that's going to be pretty solid. Now I'll have to get another hose and connect it on here. I don't have another hose yet, but I get myself one, put it on here, and then I can drain my cistern, and better believe I'll make sure that I make a video of that. So, end on the hose, ready to go. And that's all there is to it. So if you have a hose and you run over one end of it with the tractor, or it's crushed, cross-threaded, whatever, someone leaves you a hose at your house that's cut off for some reason, you can buy an end for it and fix it yourself. That item cost me $4.99 US, so it's pretty inexpensive to do as well compared to replacing the hose. And for me, there isn't really a good way to replace this hose because it goes into my cistern, and like I said, I'm still not even entirely sure how you access that pump and stuff. So this is by far the best way to approach this. Now I can run this right out my cellar door or through my window over here if I wanted to, and drain this thing out, and I don't have to worry about it just being down here in my cellar and having to open up a drain to do it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps. even if you don't have a cistern at your home, if you have a farm or a big house, you've never seen something like that before, even if you just have a little garden or something, very helpful to be able to fix a hose. Don't be afraid to just cut that hose, shorten it down if you need it shortened, add one of these things on there, you should be good to go. If it leaks, you could maybe try things like that white plumber's tape. You could try things like watertight epoxy and stuff if you don't ever plan on taking it off of there. For me, I think that just screwing on is going to hold it tight enough. If it does not, what I will do is I will get some plumber's dope, they call it, and I will probably put that all around the inside of the fixture and the hose and try that and see if it works. And if not, if all else fails, you can always just, tie a bag, like a Ziploc baggie around it to catch the water, and just try to be quick with it. But I think this seemed like a pretty good tight fitting. I checked out 3 or 4 of these at the store, and this one seemed like it was the easiest to put on and also looked like the most secure to me. This unfortunately is a 5/8 and 3/4, even though I told you try not to buy one that does both. This one does both, but because of how tight that sample piece of hose I took to the store, because of how tight this fit in there, I felt like it would still do a good job. And like I said, next time I guess we're going to find out. Thanks for joining us at our Victorian, and I bid you a very fond farewell. Until next time.